Head coach Mike Vrabel spoke with the media today after the Titans made it official that they will return linebacker Zach Cunningham to practice, designating him to return off IR. It opens up a 21-day window where he can come back to the active roster. Vrabel also did say wide receiver Treylon Burks remains in concussion protocol as of today. Good and bad news for Tennessee football today. The good, four-star linebacker Arion Carter out of Smyrna High School, the 2022 6A Mr. Football winner, announced his commitment to the Vols about an hour ago. The bad, Tennessee wide receiver Jalen Hyatt officially announcing he will declare for the 2023 NFL Draft and will opt out of the Orange Bowl against Clemson. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Let's do this, Blaine, to make you 104.5 The Zone. Happy hump day to you. Happy dark hump day. It's dark outside. It's a dark hump day around Nashville. So you just got to smile your way through it. Create your own sunshine, at least for today. And then there's a 100% chance of really cold coming up. So interesting weather week, but we'll try to keep you warm and cheery for the next couple hours as we talk sports with you. You can join the discussion, 615-737-1045. You heard Lucas Panzica's update. No surprise, Jalen Hyatt making his decision, Blaine, to kind of head on into the next stage of his career. But you talk about an unbelievable season and playing yourself into the best possible position for the next stage of your life. Holy cow, did that guy do that this year?
Oh, yeah, he had, as we all know, heck of a career. Rebounded, this season. Rebounded from last season. Still starts showing some little dropsies there at the end, last couple games. But the work was already put in there, especially against Alabama. And everybody's watching the night game, and he just torched them all over the place. But he did it mostly every game. So, yeah, there was no question in my mind. I didn't think he was coming back. I know because he hadn't spoken on it, but that's a no-brainer. What's the worst-case scenario that's going to happen? He's going to go second round? I mean, really? So, congrats to him and wish him the best, man. Yeah, maybe he'll be a tight end receiver. It made me think about, Lucas, maybe you can help us with this. Hyatt, Tillman, and Brew McCoy. Or would you take this three? NWI, Robert Woods, or Treylon Burks?
Oh, man.
Yes.
That's tough.
Yeah, see that? Yeah. And all three of those dudes from UT will be in the NFL. We all know they're going to be there, even Brew, even though he's not coming out.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah. And so as that group, you got to project a little bit better than the starting three or contributors, let's say, most contributors for the Tennessee Titans. And see, for us just to ponder the thought tells us the answer. See, and that's why, because it's hard if you want to pick a side, it's hard. But if we're pondering up NFL receivers versus college receivers, regardless of two of them coming out or not, then they lose. The Titans lose. They lose. Come on, Lucas, you're supposed to give us the answer, man, but you chicken.
I think you're taking the Titans because of the year.
I'm not taking the Titans. I'm taking a Vols.
You're taking the Vols receivers
I'm saying
over.
the Vols are better. If we're pondering the thought that an NFL receiver group is not better than the UTs, then Tennessee Titans lost.
I'm thinking about it in the context of if you put Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook-Akina, and Treylon Burks right now in a college offense, like in Tennessee's offense at the college level playing against college DBs.
And I'm not doing that. I'm going the reverse. I'm going those guys in the league and running pro routes and everything. I think they're still better as a group.
Yeah, I guess if you thought about it as with those three guys, McCoy, Hyatt, and Tillman, starting their NFL careers, would you rather have those guys starting their NFL careers on your team or have this trio, NWI, Robert Woods, or Burks? I think that'd be a tough conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here debating in my mind. And I usually never, especially when you're talking about a group and it's pro versus college, but, Tillman will be, top 2-3 round, depending on, where the injury's at. Brew McCoy be in the same situation. I think Hyde's going to go second or higher. He may go first round just on his speed alone. he's going to set himself apart from everybody else. So
He has all that stuff.
Right.
The stuff.
Yeah.
Like all of the
the
stuff.
track background,
Yeah.
So it's just, it's I don't know, man. I'm sitting here like, ooh, I don't know. That means Titans no, Vols group yes.
Lucas, if you could find out a way to put that in a poll on Blaine and Mickey, it would be awesome to get the feedback on that from everybody out there. I remember somebody who's close to the Vol program telling me before last year, hey, man, Jalen Hyatt has so much talent. If this dude ever just figures it out, then just watch out. And this was, I don't think this person had any idea of what was going to happen this year.
Right.
Said it before last year, and then he was kind of quiet last year.
Well, yeah, he had some dropsies,
Yeah.
and then he lost a little bit of confidence, and then they started rotating him in and out, and, so he went and put in some work. He said he took things for granted. Went back to work in the weight room and working on routes and catching balls. I think they said make sure you catch, I don't know how many balls it was per day, and he was tripling that per day.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was some crazy number, like 1,000 balls a day. So, yeah, he put the work in, and it paid off. It's going to pay off big, too.
Well, something really caught my ear. You and I were talking about him one day, and you just kind of said this offhanded. You said, I said, who's this comp? And you said, it's the fast guy that you've been wanting the Titans to sign for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I said, Will Fuller? You said, yep, Will Fuller.
That would come, but even a better route runner than Fuller. Because most guys aren't polished route runners. Like Randy Moss didn't become a real good route runner until halfway through his career. And he was just faster than everybody. And these guys are, with all the personal training and everything else, these guys are already better route runners as speed guys. So, yeah, I think he's going to go first round. They just, they get enamored, the GMs and teams with guys with that kind of speed and the production in the best conference in the country. So, yeah, it's pretty much a no-brainer. He might as well have been, you could have put any uniform in the SEC, any of the high-profile teams, and then you'd be like, oh, he's going to go first round.
The production was similar in their final year of college, Fuller and Hyatt. As I look at it, Fuller had over 1,200 receiving yards, 14 touchdowns. Fuller had 15 touchdowns his sophomore year at Notre Dame. He was insanely productive.
Yeah. But he wasn't playing in the SEC. He went first round too, didn't he? I want to say he did.
Yeah, he was the number 21 overall pick to the Texans.
Yeah, I would say that's probably about where I would say he's going to go. Somewhere around up in there, 15, 18. Yeah.
And they're comparable in size. I think Fuller was listed at 6'1", and Hyatt's listed at 6 foot.
Yeah.
Which I had thought Hyatt was a little smaller, and I mentioned that once. You're like, no, you have he's not small.
He's probably just more on the thinner side, but I think he's gonna be fine. He's tough. He'll start getting his grown man body. When you get that grown man body and grown man strength, then it's a whole nother level.
Well, he is going to forego the Orange Bowl, begin his prep for the next stage again, Jalen Hyatt said today. And it's no surprise, but he just made it official, put it on his Instagram and his other social media accounts. So Jalen Hyatt will move on to the next phase of his career, and it'll be real interesting. Every year I've said, gosh, I would love the Titans to have that speed element guy, that guy. And I know we talk a lot about complete receivers. You don't want somebody.
I do.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
Not somebody
because
who's just
complete
fast,
receiver because
just
they get by. I mean, they'll find a way to beat you. Derek Mason wasn't fast. He's the best receiver in Titans history. He was fast, but don't get me wrong. He wasn't a blazer.
Right.
And he beat people deep all the time. So I guess I think I understand what you're trying to do, and they do need an element of that. Mm-hmm. But Traylon Burks provides that. We saw that when he's in the game.
Sure did.
Yeah, McMath is the fastest, and he was unavailable, and now he's available, and then they overshoot him, or he had dropped it. He drops in a preseason or at practice because we haven't seen a lot of them in a game, a live game, regular season game. So I just don't get so caught up in they just need this style or just saying, oh, that's like almost saying, oh, let's get a slot receiver. No, he has to be able to play slot, outside, inside, motion. He has to be able to reverse. I want him to be a complete player because you pigeonhole yourself, and that's what we've really done with this offense. If the offensive line isn't productive, then Henry's nothing. Then you also say, well, why is Henry on the team? We can't run the ball. No running back would be able to run the ball. So I want complete players. And if he, now sometimes if it's overwhelming and it's a special player, but even with the speed guy, you keep hearing me say, but he also runs good routes
Yep.
for a speed guy. Now that's something that I like. I don't want just a guy who's a blazer can only run a goal. Because guess what? You're going to get in the National Football League and guys going to be running stride for stride and you're going to be in for a award of, dang, man, this guy, he's fast too. Yeah, everybody's going to be just as fast as you. So I think those are, back in my era, kind of way they used to break things down. I think it's kind of changed to you got to be fast enough to get deep, be able to be a polished route runner, and be multiple. That's what I want all the players to be. So that's no different than if you're a left tackle, you play guard, in a crunch, especially if you're a backup. If you're an outside, nope, you better be able to. We run formations where you're playing inside, or we play tight formation. You got to be able to run routes from here. So that's kind of the players I like. Now, sometimes you're not going to be able to get those kind of players. So then you do kind of, okay, in the fourth round, and this guy has an element that he's a vertical speed guy, maybe not as good as running routes. And you say, I think this is where we take a flyer on a guy because of his speed element, and we can teach him how to run routes. We have Moore, who's a polished route runner, big guy who taught all these guys how to run routes. It's on our coaching staff. I think that's where you roll the dice. But when you're talking about immediate impact, I want that kind of guy that can do everything, especially when you're talking about the first two rounds.
Let's go to Colt in Nashville right quick. He wants to join this discussion on Jalen Hyatt. Colt, thanks for calling Blaine and Mickey and the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. How you doing today?
Good, guys. How's it going? I think Jalen Hyatt is going to have NFL execs and coaches foaming at the mouth.
Yep, agree.
I mean, he legitimately, and there's a lot of guys that say, I'm 4.3. I mean, I think he will run in the 4.3s. And even if he didn't have the production that he had this year, there's going to be teams that would say, just with those tools, he's a first or second round guy. And with the production, and I do think he's got, I don't know if he's a fully rounded receiver that can do it all, but I certainly think he's got more than a lot of the receivers that go first and second round. And I think he projects better in the NFL than Tillman. I'm afraid Tillman's going to be like a 4-6 guy. So I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, it's hard for me to disagree with any of that. Yeah. I don't know where Tillman's going to, sometimes getting injured kind of can hurt you. We don't know where he's at in the process of, getting healthy and what will he actually run. Because I think he's just more of a 4-5 guy. That's a big target. It's a, good route runner type player. So that brings value, but where does that put him in the draft? I would say off the cuff, I would say third round. That's just me. But I have no idea. We'll get closer to evaluating him and see where he stacks up against the other receivers, and especially the combine. When you see all of them in the same location, that's really cool, and you get to see that. And I got to be on the ground floor for the first time last year, and that was pretty unique to see him. And that's why coaches and general managers, they want to see them all on the same field. Now you can see it all, right? You're right here at how they look stacked up to not basically their size, but how they really perform under that kind of pressure. And yeah, I think Tillman, he's still going to go pretty high up there, but maybe not as high as maybe going into the season before he got hurt. Yeah, it may hurt him, but speed element is going to always set yourself apart, no doubt.
Well, fascinating thing to watch. We will be in Senior Bowl season and draft season and all that coming up real soon, but we still got a whole month of regular season to talk about. When we come back, though, here's what we're going to do. John Brice is set to join us. Lots going on in the coaching world. Of course, we need to talk about Mike Leach. We'll get into that. What's next for Mississippi State as they continue their season? We'll play in a bowl game. Vols search for an OC. There's a lot to get to, and we will get to it all next with John Brice from Football Scoop here on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. John Brice will be on with us in just a second, but while Lucas's dialing fingers are dialing, speaking of dialing fingers, hour number 2, we've got more Preds tickets. So, I mean, you can stay tuned just for that or because you like us or both. Gator Mike likes us, I think, and he's called in on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. And Mike, have you got a solution for Mississippi State in this horrible time that they're going through?
Dude, I'm telling you, I had a guy mention to me this morning, and I was like, holy crap, I didn't even think about that. He said, if you're Mississippi State, do you circle back to Dan Mullen? With the success he had, he's available. Kind of like, North Carolina called on Mac Brown, Kansas State called on Bill Schneider. I mean, I was like, dang, that would be a pretty good solution to me.
Ooh, man, that sounds like a great idea,
Wow.
Gator. Man, maybe we'll ask.
Dude, it blew my mind. That guy said that this morning. I was like, holy crap, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's a great call.
Because he's been on TV.
Yeah, I mean, he is
TV stuff.
He is very available. As
I wonder if he
Mike,
would
I'm sure
be open
knows.
to that, though. I mean, or does he look at it getting back into coaching in the SEC, or does he feel like I want to go to maybe a different type of program? I want to, do something new. I mean, I don't know him well enough.
Yeah. Well, maybe this guy knows. John Brice joins us at John D. Brice 1 on Twitter, courtesy of Football Scoop. Brice, before we start getting into just anything about Mike Leach and everything about Mike Leach, we had a caller, Gator Mike, longtime listener and caller to the station, and he said, I know you're about to have John Brice on, but he said, all I can think about is this. If you're Mississippi State now, would you think about calling Dan Mullen to come back?
Yeah, Lucas mentioned that was a subject being broached on the air with you guys right now. That's an interesting thought. I'm not sure that that's a call that will get made right now. I wonder if it's not potentially Zach Arnett elevated as things move on. I think that Zach Arnett, the really fine defensive coordinator, is highly regarded and has been seen as an extremely valuable commodity for that Mississippi State program and has had opportunities to go, frankly, to other more high-profile programs in the last couple of years, has stayed loyal. I think he could have gone to some significant spots this cycle, to be quite frank, and he stayed loyal. I think there's a belief there that eventually Arnett might replace Leach. No one obviously envisioned that it would potentially come under such tragic circumstances or come this soon. But I still think that right now Mississippi State's just getting its bearings and trying to move forward as best it can in the short term. Mullen could make a lot of sense, but I would still keep a strong eye on Zach Arnett.
Well, and we sort of put the cart a little bit before the horse idea. Just the news started to break that he was having a health emergency. And, just everybody and their brother started to tell stories about Mike Leach. And then you get the horrible news, a day or so later that he had passed. He was only 61. And I know Chris Lowe had talked about, talking to him at the end of the season. He'd had pneumonia and health issues and all kinds of stuff. But it's just a sad and heartbreaking thing all around. And you really find out not only the guy, John, was in a lot of ways a football genius, he was this guy who helped hundreds and hundreds of people behind the scenes. I mean, what a legacy he left.
Just a phenomenal legacy on the field, off the field. Never had the high-profile program of say, Steve Spurrier, who revolutionized college football throughout the 1990s. But in a lot of ways, from 2000 onward, Mike Leach, in a lot of ways, revolutionized college football in much the way that Steve Spurrier had done, and also in much the way as Steve Spurrier had done and honestly continues to do to this day. Mike Leach had an incredibly quick wit about him and a propensity to be himself no matter what, to always answer candidly and sometimes caustically, but always amusingly. His riffs on the best Halloween candy, his dating advice, his commentary on players' girlfriends, on pirates, on conspiracy theories, you name it. He was must-listen theater for me literally every single Wednesday on the SEC coaches teleconference for the last 3 years. And it didn't matter if I was going to be working on a Mississippi State story that week. I was going to stay tuned in just because Mike Leach would be worth that extra 10 minutes on the call or 12 minutes on the call or whatever it might be. And I feel very fortunate that on his last SEC teleconference, I got to ask Mike Leach about his friendship with Deion Sanders, and he gave me some incredible insight, and he was just so genuine. And look, if you ask Mike Leach a bad question, you would get a one-word answer. Coach, what does your team most need to improve on? Everything. And it would be silence. But if you ask him something that he was interested in, or if you ask him about one of his proteges, a Lincoln Riley or a Josh Heupel or whomever, he would talk and talk and talk. And when I asked him about Deion Sanders, he was remarkable, and he talked about the origin story of their friendship. He talked about how impressed he was when he saw Deion working throughout the state of Texas to help kids long before Deion was on any sort of track to be an FCS or an FBS Power 5 head coach. He called Deion a Renaissance man.
Well, and that's definitely a one who knows one for sure. John Brice joining us to talk all things coaching and more here from Football Scoop on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, it's unfortunate that we're talking about Coach Leach after he passed away, but is Coach Leach a Hall of Fame coach?
That's a great question. Look, he had
I saw his
just
winning percentage
qualified.
was like 59% or something, and usually you have to be 60 or above. I don't know. all
Yeah,
the rules, but.
I think that's right. That would be one where, Major League Baseball Hall of Fame has its Veterans Committee, so you wonder if something similar in football, like the AFCA Coaches Committee or something like that, would want to put Leach in the Hall of Fame. I can't imagine a Hall of Fame being complete that's dedicated to college football without some significant recognition of Mike Leach and his impact on the game. And the other thing to note is, and I wrote this in our tribute story, he had just helped his 18th team qualify for a bowl game. So almost every single year of his head coaching career, his teams have gone to a bowl game. It's maybe 18 out of 21 teams or something that he's coached as head coach have qualified for a bowl game. That's a ridiculous streak of excellence and consistency.
No doubt about it. Well, you talked about Deion Sanders. He's now moved on to Colorado. I know Jackson State just hired a coach. I don't know much about him. Was he on his staff who they hired as the coach?
Yeah, T.C. Taylor. He was actually just about the only holdover that Deion Sanders kept when he took over at Jackson State in the fall of 2020. One of just one or two guys that Deion kept with him. And T.C. Taylor had been a former star player at Jackson State, played briefly in the NFL, I believe, with the Patriots, and played a little NFL Europe, has been a coaching staple on the HBCU scene. He was the guy that when Deion informed the team he was leaving, Deion very publicly endorsed T.C. Taylor for the job. Now, look, they interviewed a number of candidates, and they had more former NFL players who were extremely interested in the job. And a couple of the names I heard associated with that Jackson State job this time around were Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, among others. I know Deion was very active in speaking with people in the coaching community and speaking with former NFL players that he had close relationships with about whether or not they would have interest in taking over at Jackson State. So he unquestionably elevated significantly the profile of that Jackson State job and has continued, even in his absence, to shine a greater light on SWAC football.
Well, we're all about the coaching and all the new hires, but Dow Loggins, he had a little stint here with the Titans now at South Carolina. I think South Carolina's kind of added a couple pieces or redid some contracts. Kind of go through what South Carolina is doing as far as their staff.
Yeah, Loggins, as you alluded to, Blaine, a tour as the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator. He's been on the Arkansas staff for the last year or so. He's got significant college and NFL experience. He'd been coaching the tight ends and helping in the pass game for Arkansas under offensive coordinator Kendall Briles. But, South Carolina entered a situation where Marcus Satterfield was on an expiring contract. Then his good friend Matt Rule got the job at Nebraska, and that sort of just dovetailed together for the Gamecocks to see Satterfield go on to Lincoln, Nebraska, and then to begin that search process. And I know Shane Beamer talked to a significant number of people and really coaches throughout the Southeast and all across the country during this 2-week process, and he had been preparing for it for a while, but he liked Loggins. They connected really well last week in some meetings. It looked like this was going to be done. Honestly, a week ago today, we started getting calls that it looked like it was going to be completely done, and then it sort of went silent for a couple of days, and then Loggins and Beamer reconnected over the weekend and got everything worked out, and so now you have another $1 million offensive coordinator in the SEC. That seems to be that's almost the minimum wage salary for an offensive coordinator in the SEC right now. It's certainly, I would say, a median mark for coordinators in the SEC right now. So Dow Loggins getting a 3-year, $3 million deal that also has some very attainable incentives within it. And then Pete Limbo, who I think, along with Notre Dame special teams coach Brian Mason, are the 2 finest special teams coaches in all of college football. Pete Limbo got a huge raise of about almost 50%, going from around $475,000 to up around $725,000 or $750,000. And Limbo also got extended out through the end of 2025.
Good for them. Limbo was the former head coach of Ball State.
Yes, he was.
John Brice, Football Scoop.
Who's in line to earn that $1 million as the OC at Tennessee next?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's a great segue, Mickey. That was Hollywood-esque. I'm very proud of you.
Words are my business, John.
Yeah. Well, from your Twitter, it looks like your gambling might be a little bit of your business as well.
Well,
but,
Mickey's money makers, John. If you need a new house or you know anything like that, just let me know. I'm ready to take this victory lap on my recent run of success there.
I think Joy Halsey is certainly the strongest in-house candidate, and it has a great shot to be Tennessee's next offensive coordinator. Another name that I've heard that I think has a lot of credence to it would be to watch Joe John Finley, the current associate head coach and tight ends coach at the University of Oklahoma. He and Heupel have a very strong history together. They coached together at Oklahoma. Both obviously played at Oklahoma, not at the same time, but they shared the alma mater of Oklahoma. They coached together at Oklahoma. And then also Heupel had him on his offensive staff part of the time that he was at Missouri. So also significant there as well. So there's a lot of shared history there. I think the overall theme to note is that it's incredibly likely that Josh Heupel will go back to calling the plays himself. And so I think he'll have an offensive coordinator who's very dialed in, very much involved with the game planning and all of those elements. But I think Josh Heupel prefers to call it in a lot of ways. Alex Golesh called the overwhelming majority of all of Tennessee's plays in this 2022 season. That was testament to the strength and depth of the Heupel-Golesh relationship. But I think moving forward, at least the people I talk to believe Josh Heupel will once again reassert himself and be incredibly, incredibly involved with the play calling for the Tennessee offense.
I'm not surprised by any of this, but there have been there's been great praise, I guess maybe is the right word, for the staff that Hugh Freeze is putting together at Auburn. I know people like the staff he's putting together, and if you look at some of these transfer portal guys and the quarterbacks and things, they just seem to be in the mix for everybody. I know he is going to start fast, but he is starting fast.
He is, and again, when that job first opened, and then I visited with you guys, I named 3 people and said it would be a win for Auburn if they landed any of the 3, and it was Hugh, Lane, and Dion. Yep. And we saw Dion get a really good opportunity. Hugh's finally back in the SEC with a good opportunity, and Lane got a hell of a new contract extension and raise. And so, Hugh knows the game. He's got great contacts. He is putting together a really good staff, and rebuilds have been shrinking in time anymore. I can remember from Derek Dooley to any number of other coaches lamenting the fact that you don't get 5 years anymore. And in Derek's case, he didn't even get a 4th year. And a lot of coaches aren't getting a 4th year, certainly are not getting a 5th year if they haven't shown tremendous promise. And now I think that window has shrunk even more. I would contend that in today's world, the way it is right now, and unless there's NCAA legislation or otherwise that changes it, then I think it will continue to be this way. I think you're going to get about, at most, 3 years to turn around a program unless there are extenuating circumstances because of NIL and because of the transfer portal. And so I think as we look at Hugh Freeze there, I think as we look at Matt Rule at Nebraska, you're talking about 3-year windows where they have to, in my opinion, show extreme progress, or if the landscape is as it is now, moves are going to continue to be made sooner rather than later.
John Brice making moves with us here from Football Scoop. He is at John D. Brice 1. Follow him now for all the latest.
Well, John, I guess tell me a little bit about Ryan Walters. I think I remember his name in the SEC. I just can't remember where, but I know now he's going to be the Purdue head coach. He was the, DC at Illinois. Kind of take us through how his meteoric rise to the top here to be a head coach.
Yeah, and Walters played at Colorado, so he interviewed for the Colorado job this cycle. So it's kind of ironic, I guess, that he doesn't get the job at his alma mater, but he's still going to a program to coach a team that wears the black and gold. So anyway, Purdue and Colorado have highly similar uniforms, and he interviewed for the black and gold job that he had the most history with, but he ends up getting the job at Purdue. I think it's a nice hire. He has risen very quickly through the ranks, had a nice playing career at Colorado. I remember a couple of years ago, he was the finalist for that Illinois defensive coordinator job, along with Josh Conklin, the former Tennessee and Pittsburgh assistant, who most recently was the head coach at Wofford. And it came down to those two, and Brett Bielema trusted his gut and went with Ryan Walters, and it paid off very handsomely for Illinois, and Walters has continued to impress. This has been the cycle where he has really surged up because of the work he's done with that Illinois defense. Look, he had Illinois positioned to beat Michigan at Michigan, a game the Illini really should have won, and he had a great defensive system all year with not a bunch of great players. And I think when you see that, when coaching can shine through, even at this level and even in the day of the transfer portal where it is de facto free agency, I think that sticks out, and that's what's happened for Ryan Walters.
Anything else you got on the table as far as assistant coaches, whether it's OC, DC, or, coach under the radar that may potentially get an opportunity that maybe nobody's heard of, or just kind of anything off the cuff that you want to talk about on air in the coaching industry?
Oh, it'll be curious to see how Ryan Walters fills out his staff. Where will Sam Pittman go to replace Dow Loggins? I don't think by any stretch of the imagination. What does North Carolina do with the rest of its staff after losing Phil Longo, and exactly how does the Cincinnati staff shake out? What does the Luke Fickell's complete staff look like? We're not done with significant movement. It's just probably going to trickle a little bit slower here until after the early signing period a week from today. But there's still significant movement to come in this coaching cycle.
All right, on the way out, how much is this Bobby Petrino maybe to Texas A&M thing a thing?
He's on their list, but the people I talked to have emphasized that he's not at the top of their list. And Bobby Petrino has risen through the coaching ranks through the years before dipping back down and then starting his climb back over as an offensive mind, a very strong-willed, at times caustic offensive mind. I think you could use a lot of those similar descriptives for Jimbo Fisher. It's hard to envision that dynamic working together with the control that each of those figures likes to have over his offense. But he is on their list, but I'm told emphatically he is not their top choice.
Oh, well, who's on the list?
Well, look, I think Garrett Riley's on everybody's list in America right now, but he's not the only one on Texas A&M's list. And actually, I was answering text messages just before getting on the phone with you guys, trying to nail down exactly who else is on that A&M coordinator list.
Well, if people want to know about it, just follow at John D. Brice 1 or go to Football Scoop and just refresh it all the time, right? That's what you do, John.
Appreciate it.
That's it, man. It's time of the year I sleep with the phone under the pillow.
Oh, you got to, because you guys are putting out the content constantly and usually beating everybody to everything. Fantastic work, and always good catching up with you, buddy.
Keep up the work, man.
Boys, I appreciate you very much. If we don't visit, I hope you guys have a blessed and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. You
same
too.
to your family. No
yes,
doubt.
sir. Thank you, buddy. John D. Brice 1 on Twitter. You can follow him there. Director of Content rolled in with a poll that is getting some interesting responses. Would you rather have the current Vols receiver group, or would you rather have the Titans' current starting wide receiver group? You got one or the other to roll with. What are people saying? You want to hear this next. Mickey 1045 The Zone. Thanks for celebrating this Wednesday with us. So, Director of Content, Blaine Bishop, I don't know where he comes up with the stuff. He's just sitting under an apple tree or sitting on the toilet or what.
Yeah.
I don't know where these inspirations come from.
Interns, they text me.
Interns, Blaine and our army of interns. By the way, we haven't had an intern in this station in years.
I know, man. We kept producing. They were all over across the country, man, working now. So they said, hey, we got to cut these guys off, man. They're too good.
We got a memo.
Out the tricks.
No more interns. And that has, so don't call us.
We're tough, though.
We can't do it.
Because we teach you the truth.
Here's the truth about this. So Blaine was like, hey, man, let's ask this question. And Lucas actually put it out in poll form, and he just did it real simple. Which wide receiver group would you rather have? NWI, Burks and Woods, or Hyatt, Tillman, and McCoy? You guys want to take a guess at what the numbers are?
A percentage?
Yep.
Oh. Uh-oh.
I bet it's in favor of the Vols, given some folks' disdain for the Titans' offense this season.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. Well,
And I thought, boy, this will be tilted, but this is pretty tilted.
It's got 60%?
69% of responders so far say they would rather have Hyatt, Tillman, and McCoy versus NWI, Burks, and Woods. And we were kind of discussing, okay, what would the content be? Or the context, because Lucas was like, boy, if you took those pros and sent them to college, you were like, no, it can't be that way. It would have to be the other way.
Right.
If you put the Vols, you could trot out 3 starters, and it could be these 3 Vols, or it could be your current 3 Titans for the Titans.
Like as rookies, with the promise of what they could turn into as pros.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly, Lucas. Yeah. And see, what's the comp for Burks? Because I would say he is the leader in the campfire as far as just talent and everything else. So you say he's speed, he's got size. So you say, okay, is Tillman as good as him? Probably not quite as fast, maybe not quite as good. So then you go, the other 2 outdo the other 2 guys. One was an undrafted guy who's raised himself to be a, starter in the league in NWI. And then Robert Woods, who I think was a first rounder from USC to Buffalo years ago, now going on his 10th year. And we're looking at him as today. And we go, well, I think Jalen Hyatt, because of his burner speed, as you bring up, is probably more upside because of that, even after maybe 1 year in the league. So I would agree with that. I think the Tennessee group is probably better, especially if they get to work with Coach Moore with the Titans. Shoot, man, he's one of the best in the business. Yeah, because we see where NWI's gotten to as an undrafted guy. Now, he's probably peaked to where he's going to be.
Yeah.
But, man, when he first got here to where he's at today, that's all. And you got to give props to NWI, too, for putting in that work on his own as well. But, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Tyler threw this in. I would take 0 NFL experience Brew McCoy over Cody Hollister. He went he went on down the line to Cody Hollister. He said 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah. No, it's hard to disagree with that. I mean, just Brew's guns, man. There's a part of me, I was like, man, Brew need to quit lifting weights, man. I want to see you move and be slick, slimy, and blah, blah, blah. And then as the season went on, he looked like he did. Now, he was working out probably because he couldn't, do a lot in games. And then as the season went on, he started to look like, because I was like, man, he could grow into a tight end, man. He one of them flex tight ends like Ingram or something that we just faced in the league. Because I'm never getting a real good, true picture of how fast do you think Brew McCoy is? Because I can't tell. I would guess he's 4 or 5. I mean, but I have no idea. I know he's one of the highest recruited receivers in his class, if not the number 1 guy, right?
He was a 5-star prospect
right.
out of high school. Yeah.
He went to Texas, or he committed to Texas. Where did he go first?
Yeah, it bounced back. Texas and USC bounced back and forth.
Right, that's what he did. USC, and then he kept saying he was going to Texas. Then he ended up going to Tennessee. So after he was there at USC, and then he didn't even play that year, right?
He didn't take a snap last year.
Right. Yeah, so that was weird. But hey, I know they were happy. They were making sure they got him eligible on the field. That's what they were worried about. So,
I'll just be super interested to see him as like, hey, man, you're the guy. Because the 2 other guys are leaving. I guess Ramel Keaton, too. Forgot about him. Another senior who had, a nice year when he finally got an opportunity.
Does Keaton have another year?
He has another year of eligibility, yes. He would have his COVID year.
Right,
okay.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So 6 years.
And I don't believe he went through senior day. Ramel
Okay,
Keaton.
so Ramel Keaton will roll on
So
back
the
again.
thought right now is Ramel Keaton's back next year alongside Squirrel White and Brew McCoy.
Right,
Which
as
are
your
your
starting three.
which are your three receivers?
Right, which
at the
saves
moment.
you like, yeah, that's a pretty good group.
Yeah, which is who you're going to see in
We
the bowl
won't miss a
game.
beat.
Well,
Only thing that's changing is the quarterback.
Ooh.
And we
Oh, yeah.
shall see.
And we'll see all of that in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, well, and everybody's saying that too. But is one sample size gives you everything about Milton, or have we already seen enough? And to me, it's just because it's a fun game. I don't know where Jackson's at, but I'd love to see him in this game.
Hurt. Yeah.
And I don't know if he's still injured or not.
Yeah, he's out for the. It's unfortunate. Milton's the only scholarship quarterback for this bowl game.
Man,
Yeah.
I would.
Bring on Navy Schuler.
Yeah.
This may sound crazy. Would the UT fan base, and Lucas been there, covering them, watching them, going there, would you sign or bring in a transfer portal, quarterback at this moment in time? Now, Nico's coming, got Milton. I mean, where are you at with this whole process of a quarterback? For insurance policies, let's say Nico's not quite there yet, his body's not there yet, has the tools. They say Milton blunders and continues to overthrow. And so what is your insurance policy?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think
Now, the quarterback has to know coming in that he may not be the guy, but he could possibly be if the guy stumbles here.
yeah, just to have another scholarship quarterback on the roster. Yeah.
That is proven, though.
Yeah,
Not a threat. We got that guy. We got the future. So, yeah. I mean, what would be a guy that's out there on the portal? You cover it more than anybody. I have no idea. But so you were saying that Tennessee should then pursue, and I would try to get a guy, and I would try to play him in this bowl game, and I'd get 15 practices in. And I don't even know if he's eligible, but is it? Can you do that?
I don't know that a turnaround like that would be possible. I mean, when you look at the portal, there's a lot of quarterbacks at the top of those lists, like Devin Leary out of NC State. You're not getting a guy like that. Grayson
No.
McCall out of Coastal Carolina is going to find a good landing spot. But beyond that, I'm just going down the list here. It's hard to find guys. Austin Reed going back to Western Kentucky. That was big news for Tops fans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he went into the portal and then he's coming back.
Oh, so he just changed. Yeah,
It is a loaded portal of quarterbacks. Spencer Sanders at Oklahoma State, Malik Hornsby from Arkansas, Brendan Armstrong from
See,
UVA.
No, you got to have a strategy in your target. No, the guys who have been starting, knowing they are in that fifth-year deal or grad transfer or whatever, they only have one more year, I'm assuming. You're not going to get that guy. That guy's like, I'm not coming in to be competing, and this guy's already the number one.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would try to go after someone like the Reed at maybe not as big profile school, but knowing that you may get an opportunity to be the starter, but you are not our number one. And they're never going to tell him that coming there, but he knows where Milton's at. And we all know that he has all these crazy arm strength and tools.
See, this seems like it would be like a fifth-year guy from like Central Michigan.
Right. That's
And
what
it's
I'm
like,
getting at.
hey, man, you could come at Tennessee on scholarship.
Mm-hmm. And I know you started and you're not getting into the problem, but guess what? You had a coaching change.
Yeah.
We'll give you a fair opportunity. If something happens here, boom, you'll get your shot and we'll be just as fair. And by the way, you get here sooner than later, we'll let you compete for the job.
Yep.
And nothing's given here. You got to earn it.
Yeah, that's the guy I'm thinking. Like the guy you get from the
And Mac schools produce throwing quarterbacks. For
bring it
whatever
around up
reason,
there in that
they
bad
all
weather.
in the league.
Yep.
So,
We got to throw it to hour number 2. We will do that. Jordan Dajani with NFL headlines. Our headlines when we come back, including there's an interesting caveat about Mike Leach and the College Football Hall of Fame. Boy, there's a really interesting number that might hang in the balance, and I'll share the number next. Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. We are midway through the midway point of the week. It's the nexus of the sports talk. I feel like we need a sound effect for that, Lucas.
Yeah, it's not the not that. We got to have something different. You gotta, Lucas got to come up with a sound bite for that. And
like some type of
Mickey's,
portal sound.
Best bets, too.
Yeah,
Lucas, you got to start on that early because we can only depend on you, and we know when you get into something, it's going to get done.
Yeah, Mickey's Moneymakers, by the way, in the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. So Buck gets his own segment, Buck's Best Bets. He's got his own theme that Robert made for him that's this. I mean, you just can't help but get down to it. I mean, it is a pulsating dance beat, and it's fantastic. So I'm like, hey, man, I feel like I'm killing it on these Mickey Moneymakers. Do I get something? Oh, yeah, I'm going to work on that. Bert told me, yeah, man, I'm going to work on that for you. You didn't do nothing. Bert, if you're listening. Yeah. Mr. Do Nothing. So then Action Jackson has had no action on this for me either. Yeah. So we have to come to our work son, Lucas, and just say, okay, maybe you could do something. Although we're almost through the season now.
But is it better if it's like some type of music that Mickey likes, or is it more towards what the occasion is, best bets? I mean, how are you thinking about going about it?
Maybe a little bit of both.
Okay.
Maybe I'll collab with Robert. Robert is the true talent on these things. So maybe I'll collab with him music. And see what our brains can
Do you
put
have
together.
the button for the Buck thing?
No, actually, I don't think I've heard that.
You haven't heard it?
No.
Is it anywhere within you can see it?
Do you know? No.
I could probably try to track it down.
Yeah, money.
I can't believe that's not on a hot button or something. How does it?
Well, they got that new system. They didn't, he's not doing that. He's usually, where are you usually during the game? On game day.
Oh, he's in there hanging out.
I'm talking about at home. You're here, right?
Studio. He's in there with all the big time.
Yeah, I see you in the press box every week.
Right, I know. That's what I'm saying. But you're not listening to the our show in the morning?
I do listen on my way in.
Oh, okay, got you. That's what I was asking. So where are you at during that time?
There are tens of people listening, so Lucas would be one of them.
I see you every time. Really? I'm not on the air at that time.
All right, forget it. If you haven't found it by now, I mean, the moment's gone.
Yeah, you just botched it. But we'll wait for you in a little bit. Next segment.
Yes, I'm sure he'll just hit it at some point in the middle of this segment while we're talking about,
don't want to put any pressure on you, though, but we know you're going to come up with something great. Not good, but great.
So Mike Leach, we had John Brice on. By the way, he said he mentioned some. Who did he mention as the top OC Vols candidates? Joey Halsley. Who was the other guy? Jim James.
It was Joe Jones. I'm pulling up the quote from Brice.
Okay.
The associate head coach at Oklahoma, Joe Jones Finley?
That he worked with before at somebody at Missouri, too?
Joe John Finley.
Joe John.
How
in the world I graduated high school
Joe
and
John,
didn't have a Joe John in my class?
You didn't have a Joe
He's
John?
from Jonesboro.
Joe John Burrow.
He's from Arlington, Texas.
Sure he is.
And he went undrafted in 2008 out of Oklahoma.
I went undrafted in 1992 out of Arkansas State.
He was the he was the tight ends coach under Heupel at Mizzou.
Okay.
And was then the tight ends coach at A&M, and then he was the passing game coordinator and tight ends coach at Ole Miss before going to Oklahoma in 2021, where he is now the associate head coach for offense, tight ends, and H-backs coach.
And Brice ended all this by saying, but it doesn't really matter because I really foresee Josh Heupel calling all the offense again. So, but he offered no timetable on that. But we did talk about Mike Leach, and Blaine raised an interesting point. Can he get in the Hall of Fame?
Is he a Hall of Fame coach? Yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, and here's why I know this, because the great Larry Lacewell, who some UT fans would remember, he was on the staff up there for a couple of years, was DC. He was Barry Switzer's DC for a long time at Oklahoma, won national championships. He was the head coach. The only place he was ever the head coach was at Arkansas State. And he won, I think, just under like 70% of his games, whatever the number was, but he didn't coach 100 games.
Oh.
So you have to coach for at least 10 years. You have to coach at least 100 games. And this is it. This is all I know of. And the other thing is you have to win 60% of your games. So we were talking about this. Well, I got curious while we had John Brice on. By the way, at John Brice 1 at football, or at John Brice 1 on Twitter. He's breaking all this stuff down. Mike Leach in 21 years, his winning percentage was .596. 6.
Yeah, that's what I said to Brice. For 59%, is that I don't know the rules, but
Does the
is that
6
enough?
does the 6 round it up?
Oh, that's what you're going to.
The 6 is the
Oh,
magic
I
there.
don't know, Lucas. What you're the judge. I
Does the
would say
6 round it up?
yes, but I don't know the technicality of how they go about that, and I really feel like he's going to get in regardless at some point in time.
I think the technicality is that you have to be at 60. I don't think there's any rounding
push.
up.
But
Oh,
that rounds up to 60 though. That's .596.
that could be the argument for whoever's trying to push for him.
I hate that there's a uniform number for it.
You want to hear the worst one of all? You want to hear the worst one of all? The worst
The
rule
worst stipulation to get
for Hall of Fame for players, the
What
College
is it?
Football Hall of Fame. You know what that is? You have to make a recognized by them first team All-American team. So
nobody from like Ball State will ever
Yeah,
make
I hate that.
the Hall of Fame.
they'll never make it again. So you have to go back into like Ball
Arkansas
State's
State.
history, Arkansas State. We're like, well, in 1970, Calvin Harrell was a small college All-American recognized by the Associated Press, which that's a real guy and that's a real thing, and that really happened. But
That was honorable mention.
like Layman's honorable mention.
From Ball State, making honorable mention is like making first team, man. What are you talking about? It's 3 people in front of me, or 6 people in front of me.
But you think about it. You could have the greatest career in the world at Western Michigan or
Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky or Middle
Yeah.
Tennessee or any of these places. You're not going to make first team All-American.
No.
If you were a defensive end and you had 28 sacks, you probably wouldn't make.
I don't know, Mickey.
If you had 28 sacks,
know.
maybe. So there's but think about
You
all
get
the
20
Western
sacks.
quarterbacks who've thrown for 6,000 yards or 5,000 yards in a season. They would never make first team All-American.
Well, good test on this one is you can look this up real quick. I don't know the answer. Ben Roethlisberger went to Miami of Ohio. Did he make All-American at anything? He went first round.
Yep.
So obviously everybody knew who he was and what he could do. But did he make All-American in first team? If not, him not being on the list to be a candidate for College Football Hall of Fame is just that's horrific. That's bad. I mean, that one there, and I have no idea, but that's just a name that just comes off my mind. Really off the cuff with great player in a smaller Division I program. Yeah, Miami, Ohio is the Harvard of the Midwest.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Roethlisberger was an All-American.
I don't think he was.
He wasn't even second
No.
team or third team.
Nah, he was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So
03.
So to me, if you go to Arkansas State or Miami of Ohio, the Harvard of the Midwest, or whatever it is, hey, man, if you're the player of the year in your conference, that should count.
Ooh, that should be a stipulation. That
You're
should
the
put
best of the best of the people that you play against.
Mm-hmm.
And what got me thinking about this is, I don't know if you guys are aware of this.
What's
I don't know
what's
if
the
any
name?
of you know this, if you two even know this about me. I really love Arkansas State. I
went to my knees. I thought you were about to tell me something. I fell for the. I thought he was going to tell us something that we really didn't know about him.
Name one coach in Arkansas State's history.
So I don't know if you know this about me. So I started thinking like, boy, we've had some really good guys. Why do they never get any mention? Then I start digging. Larry Lacewell, why is he not in? Didn't coach enough games. So then I'm like, okay, what about some of these players? Never a first team All-American.
That's hard to do.
It's a terrible rule.
Let's say mid-major type program.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
So if
It has to be either the quarterback or and you're going to have some stats, but they're still going to not put you in first team All-American.
like you mentioned, the Western quarterbacks who throw for unbelievable amounts of yardage every year, none of those guys ever going to make first team All-American.
Well, that's the reason why they're not. Because they say, oh, well, those guys aren't even going to play in the league. That's why I use Ben Roethlisberger. And there's been other quarterbacks from smaller programs that have gone in the first round as well. So, yeah. Jeez.
So did Lacewell have the winning percentage? He just didn't have the minimum amount of games?
Yeah.
How many games do you need to have coached?
100?
You got to coach 100 games.
Mm-hmm. Just like you're going to have 100 minutes.
And so, and I'll tell you this because I look at the ballot for College Football Hall of Fame every year, and there are always a couple guys from middle, but they're from when Boots Donnelly was the coach when they were 1AA because that's its own set of stuff. 1AA or football championship subdivision now, 1AA. Dudes made All-American at that and still do. Like you can make first team All-American from Austin P in 1AA.
Right.
But if you're middle now, You're never going to have anybody again. I mean, it would have to be like a kicker who made all 60 of his field goals and hit 2 65-yarders, or I don't think you could sack the quarterback enough. I don't think you could throw for enough yards. I don't think you could run for enough yards. And then if it's a guard or somebody, they're going to be like, I'm not giving a guard from middle first team all that. We're picking the guy from.
Oh, we can use a kid from here then. The Strange guard that went. The Strange is his last name. He went to the Patriots.
Cole Strange out of UT
Curtis
Chattanooga.
Strange. What is his first name?
Cole.
Yeah. All right. I'm sure he was an All-American at FCS school. He can't qualify to be a college football Hall of Famer.
If he was first team All-American, he can.
I think he was.
Okay, so he because he's 1AA and he played at the top of that level.
Oh, okay.
But if you're just some dude going to like a Group of 5 school, you don't have a chance.
You don't.
They gotta fix that.
With that being said, you don't exist. All right, we'll go to break.
Jordan Dajani next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. It's taking a mellow ride through a Wednesday here. Jordan Dajani will join us now from CBS Sports. JD, how in the world are you doing today? Happy holidays to you, good sir.
Happy holidays. What's going on, guys? I'm doing well. Always excited to share the airways with you on a fine Wednesday.
It goes both ways. Absolutely, buddy. So we've had literally about a week now to process all the John Robinson stuff, and you've had some time to think about it, and you've had some time to do a little looking into it and talk to your CBS Sports colleagues. I'm just curious about your thoughts now, a week in the rearview mirror, the Titans saying goodbye to John Robinson as general manager.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I've looked at some of the interviews that Amy Adams Strunk has done with Teresa, and I've thought about it. And, of course, I took in what the Titans did on the field against the Jaguars on Sunday. That was very disappointing. I was kind of hoping that this move would galvanize the roster and the team as a whole. I know that John Robinson was somebody who wasn't disliked by any means by the team, but I thought maybe a switch-up would be good for the team on the field. That, of course, did not happen. Something that did kind of stick out to me in her interview with Teresa was her saying that she made up her mind on the decision even before the Eagles game, which I thought was very interesting. And, again, the main thing that I had in terms of a problem with this decision was it happening right after the Eagles game and kind of giving credence to that A.J. Brown got J-Rob fired narrative. So that surprised me a little bit. But, yeah, I'm moving forward, and I'm kind of interested to see how the Titans bounce back after that loss to Jacksonville.
Oh, wait. I want to add to that because Mickey brought this ideal up. That was the perfect time to fire him because then you could blame it on actually the A.J. Brown trade, and he had a great game versus the Tennessee Titans. That's what he was saying.
Well, my thing was, Jordan, working in the college football world and college athletics, if you ever had to tell your people bad news, there was the old 5 o'clock Friday news dump, or you would hope other things would happen over the weekend to steal their attention. But if you're Amy Adams Strunk and you're sitting on the airplane and you're embarrassed and you start looking at social media, and I think she does because she mentioned it, and you know how mad people are about the AJ trade, and you're thinking, well, I was going to fire him. Heck, if I do it now, most people would think this was a good idea. They're all that mad. I think it was more about just realizing I've got a real opportunity here to do this because people are so mad. I think the majority of Titans fans would even agree with me, and she did, and they did.
100%. And I think that's a great point. And I guess that also leads me to wonder kind of how truthful she was in terms of when she came to the decision. Was that before or after? Because to your point, that could have been the final straw. It's not, and as I've said before, it's not the main reason this decision was made, although it definitely was a reason. So that's pretty interesting as well.
Jordan Dajani, our guest here on Blaine and Mickey. He is with CBS Sports covering ye old NFL.
Man. Well, Jordan, I'm sure you were all in, just like all of us, watching the Tennessee Titans. And what did you think about, let's say, what the Jags look like, and then what does the future look like for the Jags versus the Titans coming down the stretch here? 4 games left or so, if the Jags have a possibility to win in the division?
Goodness, man, there's so much to break down. I mean, the Titans have lost 3 straight games after starting the season 7-3. This is the first 3-game losing streak since 2018 for the Titans, which was Mike Vrabel's first season with the team. The Titans have not lost 4 straight since 2015. Here's another interesting stat of note. I'm pretty sure the Titans are the first team in NFL history to allow quarterbacks to go for 350 or more passing yards, 3 or more passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown compared to 0 interceptions in back-to-back weeks. Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence. That goes back to at least 1951. Whoa. And, I'll say this. We made Trevor Lawrence look like a more athletic Peyton Manning. We made Evan Ingram look like a smaller Tony Gonzalez. The pass defense was not good at all, zone coverage or man. The front 4 was not getting the kind of pressure they're used to. Without Danico Autry, the Titans actually have the 3rd worst pressure rate in the NFL over the past 3 weeks. So his loss has been a big one. And as we know, Jeffrey Simmons is trying to play with an ankle injury as well. So the defensive side of the ball really stood out to me when it came to this loss against Jacksonville. An embarrassing loss, I may add. But there's problems on the offensive side as well.
Oh, wow, man. You threw out some great numbers there. Wow, man. It's just unbelievable. Looks like they're going in the wrong direction, you think?
Yeah, you also asked me about what kind of the future holds in terms of the short-term future, looking at the playoff picture. the Jaguars are obviously in the rear view mirror. I get that. But at the same time, you look at what Vegas is saying. The Titans are still minus 550 to make the playoffs, while the Jaguars are minus 475 to miss the playoffs. So if you were a little worried about the playoff picture, take some comfort in that Vegas is still pretty high on the Titans in terms of them winning the division. When I'm looking at the schedule, I think it's very possible that the Titans and the Jaguars both go 1-2 down the stretch and meet in that final regular season finale. Now, if they both go 1-2, that final matchup won't have any importance. But, let's say if the Jaguars have an upset over the Jets or the Cowboys, that's going to make things very, very interesting. So in terms of this Jaguars franchise, I think they're moving in the right direction, right? Yeah. They got the right head coach. They got their prospective franchise quarterback. The defense has some work to do, but they got some young athletic pieces as well. So if you're a Jaguars fan, you got to be happy about the future, even if you miss the playoffs this season.
I know you're not in the GM hiring, but we talked about John Robinson at the beginning of this segment. And got any guys you're hearing or that high-profile guys that are number twos at other organizations that you think should be on the list, or you haven't got that far yet?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that's on my to-do list in terms of looking at some of these front office prospects. It's something that I kind of dove into last year, but it was more in the off-season when those guys were making their interviews. Because once we get those interview requests for some of those teams, we get a better idea of some of those hot commodities around NFL circles, and that's when we can kind of do our research and ask around. So I'm not 100% sure what the Tennessee Titans would be looking at. And the other thing you have to think about, too, is what kind of general manager does Tennessee want? Do they want somebody who's hands-on with the roster? Do they want someone who really specializes in dollars and cents, because a smaller market team like the Titans obviously would benefit from that? So I'm not 100% sure on prospects just yet, but that's something I can look into for you for sure.
No doubt. Well, we were sitting here talking about, we were with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports. We were sitting here talking about All-Americans for college, and it made me think about the pros since we're having you on. And Russell Wilson is having a horrific season. And so it made me think about, before going into this season, I was thinking, he's going to be a Hall of Fame player. Maybe not first ballot, but I thought he would get in. Now I'm having second thoughts. How much does this season kind of affect your thought process on how good of a player he is, or does it affect it at all?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I certainly do think it affects it, because you have a player who is a great quarterback, a Super Bowl champion, somebody who was at least in the MVP conversation multiple times in his career, even if he wasn't necessarily getting votes at the end. And then he leaves that situation and goes to a new franchise and looks like a completely different player, somebody who is expected to galvanize an entire franchise, and he's done everything but that. So, yeah, when it comes to looking at the legacies of players, the Hall of Fame resumes, how we talk about some of the best quarterbacks over the past decade in the NFL, this 1 year is definitely something that affects that. Now, there's definitely a certain faction of people that believe that Russell Wilson's going to be able to bounce back, that most of the blame goes to first-year head coach Nathaniel Hackett and general manager George Payton. To me, there's blame to go around, but at the same time, when I'm watching Russell Wilson play, he's missing open throws. He's not seeing the field entirely well. He's a little more rattled under pressure than he usually is, and as he gets older, he doesn't necessarily look like the legitimate dual-threat quarterback he may have been in years past. There's plenty of blame to put on Russell Wilson, but at the same time, I think we have to at least give him the benefit of a doubt to see if he can prove himself in 2023, but at the same time, it's not looking good, and this year's been an absolute disaster.
Man, one more, and that is Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, man, is it more him or is it the system? Is this dude the real deal? I mean, because I've watched him in college and now I see him in the pro. Man, he's got some moxie to him that you like. Or is he more down the road of like a Heineke type player?
Yeah, Blaine, it's a question I'm wondering myself, and I feel like maybe we'll have a better answer after seeing him on Thursday night against the Seahawks. But I mean, that 35-7 beatdown of the GOAT, Tom Brady, certainly speaks volumes about what this quarterback can do. And I think most of the credit needs to be given to Kyle Shanahan because, as I've mentioned before, he's been working with quarterbacks that aren't necessarily known for carrying offensive attacks with their arms. It's about the system. It's about the line. It's about the running backs. It's about the weapons in general. And that's what Brock Purdy's working with right now. However, he did lose Deebo Samuel, so I'm kind of interested to see how that affects him moving forward. But to your point, this kid's got some swag. He has that motivation. I liked watching him play football, so I'm kind of interested to see what he can do with this great coaching staff and this great team in general as we move forward this final stretch of the regular season.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because if he continues to play well, and I'm not saying that he's going to play as well as he did, this past game, but if he, continues just to keep plodding through and they're winning games, man, they're going to have a decision to make with Trey Lance coming back, right?
Yeah, I think they're already
that's a good problem, but man, I don't know. He may win over the locker room.
Exactly, and it'll be a very interesting offseason, I'll put it that way.
Right. Well, Garoppolo, they put him back out there once he's healthy. We're on with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
Jordan, this whole thing with Marcus Mariota and the Falcons, and Arthur is mad, and he's got an injury, or he's going home, and I know his wife had a baby. There's a lot going on, but it seems way out of character, the whole thing of Marcus, as some people are saying, just taking his ball and going home.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought this up. This is a very weird situation. And, on one hand, he's having knee surgery, and as you mentioned, reportedly just had the birth, I think, of his first child. So with those things coupled together, he's taking time off. But when you listen to head coach Arthur Smith speak, he sounded, some kind of way about this situation, if you know what I'm saying. I think his direct quote was talking about the knee injury. Nothing that's been an issue this season, but that's their prerogative, which I thought was a very interesting quote. And, it leads a lot of people to believe that maybe Marcus Mariota quit on the team after being benched for the second time in his career. I know that was a very tough thing for him when it happened with the Tennessee Titans, and now he's being benched for a rookie on a new team, and he might have said, bump this, I'll go get some knee issue taken care of, and see you never. It's a very interesting situation. I don't think we can say that for sure, but The Athletic did write something saying that the Falcons just don't know when he will be back. That's pretty notable, in my opinion. A very weird situation with a former Titan down in Atlanta.
Who's his agent? Do you know?
I do not know that. I do not know that answer. No.
Yeah. It seems so out of character. I mean, even here, as things just ended for him to the very end, he was still as Marcus-y as he could be. This just seems real out of character for him, for sure. And there's two sides to every story, so I'm sure at some point we'll hear the other side. No other side to this. Watching the game the other night, Kyler Murray is doing Kyler Murray stuff, and as soon as you saw what happened, you thought this can't be good, and it was not good.
Not at all. This is such a tough injury for a guy who's had a very tough season. And, Kyler Murray is obviously the main focal point on offense for the Cardinals, and he's made his fair share of highlight reel plays even through this disappointing campaign. And what really stinks is that moving forward, the Cardinals this offseason are probably going to have to hit the quarterback market to find somebody who can play the majority of the 2023 season, because with Kyler suffering this torn ACL in December, he's obviously going to miss a good chunk of that regular season. And who knows if even more time than that, depending on how serious the injury was. So this is a really, really tough break for not only Kyler Murray as a player, but for this franchise in general. Cliff Kingsbury, a head coach that has seemingly been on the hot seat, and general manager Steve Keim as well. Huge, just an absolutely devastating break for this team.
Jordan Dajani, our guest at Jordan Dajani, covering the NFL for CBS Sports.
Let's stay in line with quarterbacks here, and someone who's revitalized their career to a certain extent, and that is Goff with the Lions, who are making a push for the playoffs. What do you think they're going to do with him as far as his contract situation? Is he now becoming a franchise quarterback? You're going to put a lot of money into him, or you're going to turn the page at some point here in the next year or two?
I got to say, I'm very surprised with the turnaround that Jared Goff has shown. I think if I was in the front office going into this year, he would have been somebody that I would have been considering replacing just in terms of watching his film from last season. But this prospect, the former number one overall pick, has bounced back in a big way. And I feel like he's really just bought into this franchise and bought into this system. His offensive coordinator, by the way, is a guy who's going to be potentially a head coach next year. But yeah, Goff hasn't thrown an interception since, I think, week 9 against the Packers. He's thrown at least 2 touchdown passes in the past 3 games. The Lions look like one of the best offenses in the NFL, at least over the past few weeks. And after their win over the Minnesota Vikings, and they were favored in that matchup. They were favored against a double-digit win team, a divisional rival, and they beat them by 11 points. Their offense did such a number on this Vikings defense that right now Minnesota statistically has the worst defense in the NFL. So this Lions team is red hot, but I'm a little worried if it's a little too late, because their odds of reaching the postseason, they need several different things to happen around them as opposed to just them winning games. So they've quickly become America's team, but I don't know if they're going to be able to make the postseason.
No doubt about it. We're in with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports. Real quick, give us the lowdown on the Chargers, on what you know, man, because they looked fantastic the other night that I watched them. Man.
Yeah, when it comes to the Chargers, it shouldn't be a surprise. Justin Herbert's always been a good quarterback.
Yep.
I feel like he gets a lot of flack in the national media for whatever reason. But, for the Titans, I think that you need to ride Derrick Henry in this matchup. He's second in the NFL in rushing yards this season. The Chargers, on the other hand, allow 5.4 yards per rush.
Yeah.
That's on pace to be the worst in the Super Bowl era.
Whoa.
But on the flip side, the Titans' pass defense, as we know and as we've talked about, it's not too great. Justin Herbert's thrown 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the past 3 games. The Titans' defense, on the other hand, has allowed 7 passing touchdowns and caught 0 interceptions in the past 3 games. One more thing you guys should keep an eye on. The Titans, of course, blitz at the lowest rate in the NFL this season. Justin Herbert's definitely a top 10 quarterback statistically when he's not blitzed. He struggles when he's blitzed because of that lackluster, banged-up offensive line. So that's going to be interesting to watch in terms of the amount of pressure Tennessee decides to throw at him. So it should be a fascinating game. I'm excited for it. A good opportunity on the West Coast to bounce back for a team that should be able to win the division this year.
JD, fantastic stuff, man. At Jordan Dajani, and of course, CBSSports.com. People need to go there, hit that NFL tab, and see what all you and your buddies are up to. Always fantastic information.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
The
it,
one
Jordan.
and only Jordan Dajani. All right, when we come back, Mike Grable talked about a couple of guys trying to come back from injury. And what did he say? And who were those guys? We got that for you next. Blaine and Mickey.
Nasty waiting rooms have you walked into while waiting on your vehicle repair? It's like you don't want to sit down or touch anything because there's grease all over the place. Well, at Eurofix, you'll find luxurious waiting rooms with all the internet connectivity and refreshments you need in a safe environment. And Eurofix fixes everything European with an ASE certified technicians. And not all repair shops have ASE certified techs, so you better watch out and make sure an ASE certified technician works on your European vehicle. Eurofix offers a nationwide 3-year or 36,000
Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. Thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate it. John Michael says in the Zone TV chat, I've been riding around listening. Great show, guys. Thanks for riding with us. We appreciate it.
Watch this. Let's ride.
Oh, yeah, let's ride. You want to ride with Santa? How about this? Looking for Christmas music to get you in the holiday spirit? You can listen to 1045 The Zone Santa Stream presented by State Water Heaters. Just by going to 1045thezone.com and click on the Santa Stream button at the top of the page, and you can hear all your favorite holiday tunes. So open 2 windows, and you could listen to all your favorite sports talk on the Zone over Santa's favorite hits. Now, here's a hit for you. Smashville. You got friends and family in town for the holidays, bring them to a game. Experience Smashville. I've done that with my family, and oh my gosh, they love it. It's the best and loudest and most fun party on Broadway. You can see the Preds face off against the Dallas Stars on December 27th. Celebrate my birthday with the Preds. Be caller number 5 now to win tickets to see the Preds host the Stars on December 27th at Bridgestone Arena. Caller 5 now, 615-737-1045 for tickets and info. Visit NashvillePredators.com/tickets. That'll get you there. So who didn't practice today? I was trying to check out the Jimmy Wyatt evaluation because he always tells you who did and who didn't. Did not practice Fulton. Yikes. With what they're about to see out in Los Angeles. CJ Board, Dontrell Hilliard, who just blamed. My gosh, he took a nasty hit in that game. That was hard to watch.
Yeah, I was just thankful he got up.
Me too.
He didn't move for a second there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. That's just one of those things where it's like, forget about football. I just hope that dude.
And then they signed Josh Ward. I don't know to what level, a running back who I wasn't familiar with. So maybe this could be somewhat of an injury that could linger here. I don't know the situation there with Hilliard, but that means Haskins and your boy Chestnut move up on the depth chart.
Yeah, old Chestnut, Jonathan Ward, he's played 3 years for the Cardinals. He hasn't done a whole lot of offensive stuff, but he's a special teams guy. I think he has 14 special teams tackles over the past 2 seasons. He played at Central Michigan. Mac just continues to throw these dudes into pros, man. He ran for over 2,500 yards and 28 touchdowns in 42 career games. So, obviously, a guy with some offensive skills. Maybe we'll see him get in the mix here. The other guy, Robert Woods, Jim Wyatt said he did not practice today.
What was that?
No, didn't say. Could be a maintenance day. Not sure, but he
didn't even have anything around it.
Not spotted at practice, he says.
Dang.
Mike Vrabel talked about 2 guys, though, he was asked about with the press today. What did you say, Lucas? No Burks?
I've got him talking about Burks.
Yeah, no Burks.
Okay. Burks, he said, is still in the concussion protocol along with Trey Avery. And so somebody started asking questions about, well, he goes, there is no what about. You're either in it or you're not. You're either in it or you're out of it. And both of those guys, Mike Vrabel said, are still in the protocol, talking about Burks and Trey Avery. He said the Titans will see what Zach Cunningham can do in practice this week. His 21-day window opened. So they have 3 weeks now to poo or leave the loo, so to speak, poo or get off the pot with him.
Didn't they cut Schobert too?
Cut Schobert,
Yeah,
which
okay.
maybe that tells you something.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And like you said about the running back signing on the practice squad, that tells you everything you know about Hilliard.
Yeah.
That it's going to be
maybe a little bit. They're getting, they're getting to a position where, okay, if we get him back soon enough, we got another, running back. Dang.
Well, I'll be interested to see what Chestnut can do. I mean, I will.
He's done a good job on special team. I've been watching him because, that's your guy. And, he made it. A lot of people didn't think they should have kept him just because of the running back and what can he bring. But he's learned how to play special teams, and he's a physical guy. And he was a good running back. So I thought running back level, I thought it was perfect to bring back on the practice squad. But a lot of people were, disappointed that he made the actual roster. And I think they thought that other teams were going to pick him up because he did perform well in the preseason. Something to take notice of. So, I like him. I like his skill sets. I like, he's all around good back and has nice size and power. Yeah.
I just think the timing, too. Chestnut at Christmas. Maybe roast the Chargers on an open fire.
Yeah, with open fire.
There's a video of Danico Autry at practice today. Everybody's got their fingers crossed and everything else for him to get back. Mike Vrabel said he will do some limited things in practice today, and then there's video of kind of him doing a limited thing in practice today.
Yeah, that limited would tell me that he is not playing this week. That's what that limit told me.
Dr. Blaine has reviewed the medical evaluation of one play, and
well, he was just doing like bag rushing, and he just his get off. He had a little giddy up in there, and he's fighting through. So what it tells me is, I think he's a week away. Okay. If I was guessing, and I'm not a doctor. I don't even know the extent of his injury. He just had a brace on his knee, and it was wrapped up, and he just seemed like he had a little giddy up in his go. So, you're in the trenches there, getting hit from all kind of angles. Got to have your power source with a knee. I couldn't see him out there, but they got to work through the little kinks, get him out, get confident, get the legs strong. So I would say at least another week, if I was guessing.
Put out this poll yesterday. Which injured player do the Titans need them? Or actually earlier today, which injured player we have a winner, by the way, for people who are still calling. I'm sure we have a winner. Lucas has fielded several hundred phone calls here. Which injured player do the Titans need the most to return versus the Chargers? We asked Danico Autry, Traylon Burks, Christian Fulton, or other. And for the other, I was thinking David Long, who's missed a game. Danico Autry is running away with this, 66%. 26 for Traylon Burks, 7% for Fulton.
Wow.
1% other. People realize, my gosh, Danico Autry makes all those. That vaunted Titans pass rush, it is not happening without Danico Autry.
Who did you vote for, Lucas? Did you vote, or just tell us who you would have voted for?
I went Nico.
You took who?
Danico.
Who'd you take, Mickey, on that poll?
Danico.
Oh. I took Burks.
Well, why not get them both back soon enough? We got to go.
I think I'm an offensive guy in my heart of hearts.
Offensive-minded Blaine Bishop takes the offensive guy. Us two guys who did not play 10 years of defense in the NFL took the defensive guy. Right now, we got to take a bus out of here, though. We got to go. It is time for 3HL.
Well, in the meantime.
In between time.
Peace!